Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the show tonight. Tonight's guest, we have Queen Vanessa out of Baby Hunters Point, and she's coming on. We're talking about the closure of the youth guidance centers in San Francisco, in the Bay Area, actually. So we're going to bring the sister on and allow her to speak on the closures of the juvenile halls in the Bay Area and see what we come up with. Welcome to the show, my sister.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me again.
Yes.
This is my second time appearing on your show, so thank you so much for having me. So hello, my name is Queen Vanessa, and I'm going to bring some attention today and conversate with you all on the California SB 92 is what is listed as, where California will be closing juvenile facilities. So thank you for allowing me to be here with you and on your show, and I'm grateful and I appreciate this opportunity to help us understand what's happening in this game changer of our lives.
We're so glad to have you on to let people know what's going on.
Thank you.
People don't know about this, and people need to know, and we thank you for coming on the show, exposing this.
Thank you. So, our urban survival across the states is in critical state of danger. I will predict it to be crucial, and that the times of our that it be more crucial than the times of our ancestors. And the reason why I said that is because you said the key word. A lot of people don't know. And that's why there's so much distractions with other things and there's not a lot of attention being brought to this. And so I've been working really hard to try to learn ways to help the Black and brown families learn and understand how the government is about to operate on the next generation. Because closing juveniles in any manner, for any reasons, is just going to impact the next generation of urban Black and brown children. California plans to wipe out the next generation with incarceration, because we're already in a pandemic. We're 2 years in the pandemic. They're talking about closing juveniles. Well, actually, July the 1st of 2021, they're not accepting any more youth into any juveniles in California.
Oh, really?
That's let's start there.
Of 2021?
Yes. So just a couple of months. Yes, it's already started. So what they already started is, if youth are getting in trouble right now, they're not getting booked into any of the facilities.
Oh, really?
And December 31st, San Francisco of 2021, San Francisco will officially close its doors at 11:59. It will no longer be a 375 Woodside Juvenile Facility. It will be dismantled. So this is really, yes. So this is really, really serious as we, getting deeper into the future. Our children is not really knowing what's going on. Families is not really knowing what's going on. It's getting a little, it's going to be really tough, because they're talking about programming. They're talking about putting youth in programs. And so if you read read the language that comes out of San Francisco or California, they're talking about sending youth to camps. So if youth are not applying, depending on the crime, you got to always remember, depending on the crime, because if the youth is out here doing robberies and they already have robberies as a prior, you could test to this. Eventually, they're gonna be getting sent to prisons, because if there's no juveniles and you robbing at gunpoint, you're robbing, carjacking, all that is gonna land prison. It's no programming. It's no nothing that's going to be there besides the camps. Now, when I read into the camps is the camp that they're talking about sending the youth into is in Stockton. It's called Pine Grove Rehabilitation Center, but it's actually a camp. So I kind of researched it, see where it's located at. It's like 2 hours away from San Francisco, so it's a little bit outside of Sacramento, out in Stockton and Sacramento. And so what a lot of my concerns are is like, what is the school district doing to help? Like, what have any entity done to help us with this information?
Right.
I learn of it because I'm in the movement and I'm aware and I'm reading and I'm researching and I'm trying to get families to understand, especially black families here in San Francisco. We has actually been funneled into a pipeline to prison. So let's talk about that.
Definitely.
So I learned of the pipeline to prison in 2014 with Eddie Zing and Nate Williams. They came to my class over at City College. I was in a post-prison class course over at City College. And then when they came to speak to us, it just led me into more wanting to learn about massive incarceration. How is this happening? What is going on? Why are people funneling into prison so much? Like, basically, the entire population of black San Francisco between probably the era you was born and the era to now is funneling into the pipeline to prison, especially with education. So that's how we're getting caught up with poverty and prison, because the society or the system designed public education never to educate black people. And I didn't really know that. So when we was in the course over at City College, one of the professors said, I guess she just couldn't take it, because it was the way she told us. She was like, you know what? I guess I just gotta tell y'all this. And we was like, what? She was like, well, Vanessa, do you know the United States put a plan together not to educate African Americans for 100 years? And I was like, huh? She said, yeah. So it's designed that way. And then I read the book so my movement around education and the pipeline to prison is also being based off a book that was wrote about us in Hunters Point. And why I say us is because you a native and I'm a native. The book was actually published in 1974, but the guy was studying you growing up there. And his name is Arthur E. Hippler. And he wrote a book called Hunters Point, The Black Ghetto. And it speaks on how the education is never going to flourish there by design. He speaks on how the police is going to harass the African Americans in Black San Francisco and funnel us all into prison. He tells the whole story.
What's the name of this book?
The book is called Hunters Point, A Black Ghetto. And it's by Arthur, his name is Arthur E. Hippler. So when I looked him up to try to find out a little bit about him, he's a white guy. He was a professor, and he passed in 2017. So we just lost him, and he did a study on Hunters Point. He talks about how there was no drugs in Hunters Point until the black people came. He talks about how the police wouldn't even come out to Bayview between like the 40s and the 50s, when there were young black males were robbing the white people. He said the police wouldn't even come. And I was like, wow, they say that today. I mean, like, wow, so nothing's really changed, because they saying the same thing today. The police don't come to Bayview. You could call them, call them. Well, actually, I guess it's kind of happening everywhere with the defunding the police. I don't know if that's was a good or a bad thing. I don't really know the politics behind it. All I can say is, did it really take George Floyd for us to come to that state of defunding the police? Or, it would even help me if someone would say, you know what, it was a conversation before that even happened, because then it looks like conspiracy theory, because I'm big on conspiracy theory, because it looks like, okay, this happened to him, now let's defund the police, when it been happening to us. So much is happening to us. But hopefully, with our movement here in San Francisco, Mayor Bree defunding the police, and with her Dream Keeper initiative, I really believe that some change can come into where we at now, with the San Francisco Planning Department and their historical resolution, righting their wrongs. The San Francisco Juvenile Probation Department. This city know what happened. They know what they did. Whether it was intentionally or unintentionally out of their control, or just, I believe, until we as black people understand the system is against us, but against society at large. But it's just something about black African Americans that we don't level up with these people. It's always disparities with us. It's always redlining with us. It's always something. It's always been like that with our ancestors. So I think if we could come in terms to understanding that, and not blame politicians, because what happens in society is not Mary London Breed. She's a baby in this. She's just holding her weight down, and thank the God that she's a black face that can speak up for us and be at the table and take that pressure and say, no, this is what needs to take place for us. It always needs to be that voice at the table. And that's why I give a lot of love and respect to her and any politician, because it's not easy. President Shaman Walton said it himself. It's not easy being a black man in America, let alone being a black man and a politician in America. So, it's time for urban America, urban California, urban Baton Rouge, urban New Orleans, urban Chicago to level up and hold the government accountable for what's not taking place in your community, why we don't have jobs, why we are targeted, because a lot of it's because we allow ourselves to be put in these situations, and then what are we doing to dig ourselves up out of these holes? What are we doing to climb back up to the top? So that's why I respect Mary London Breed. No Dreams Deferred. She's using Langston Hughes, theory on dreams being deferred, and so she's working really hard with black-led organizations and black-led movements, up-and-coming movements like me myself. I'm one of the up-and-coming movements too. I'm a survivor of the aftermath of the war on drugs. I'm probably one of the last dinosaurs from my era in the 70s that can really tell a story on what happened with from with the big block to the West Mob to to just all the gangs that just really developed in San Francisco, even the ones over the Knockout Block over in the Fillmore, even the ones over in the Sunnydale, because I researched the gangs in that era and I didn't even really know it was that many. And I didn't even really know they were categorizing us as gangs. And then when the conjunction came in with the gang conjunction, it just put you back in slavery, where they didn't want 2 or 3 black men speaking with, being with each other. Then they came with the gang conjunction. So I say this to say that it feels like we're still not free, And so with that being said, I really want to, here's some statistic information that I have that the juvenile department, they put out a $22,200 million budget. So that budget is supposed to cover costs for keeping youth on local levels. So when they mean by local levels, that's when they mean the group homes. That's when they mean like programs like, let's use Brothers Against Guns. He say, okay, I want to get a couple of homes and then I'll program the youth. So that's when they mean by local level. Then they have like 9.6 million that they want to go to counties to create programs. So the language is what bothers me, because as an urban consultant and as someone that has to research all this stuff before I can really speak on it, it's the language we really have to be careful with these people and their movement, because for them to have to create programs now, I think they should have created programs 5 years ago when they knew they was going to do this. Right. Because nothing happens overnight. If they already know they're closing a facility in 2023, all of them in California. Now this is the catch. All of them in California. So that means we're going to lose San Mateo County Juvenile.
Every one of them.
Every one of them.
Yeah.
We're going to lose the ones in...
They're doing something that they don't have a solution for. They're closing them down, but there's no solution. The youth are going to wind up in penitentiaries. That's when they're going to go to prison. And that's what they're designing them for. They're designing to send them to these camps. The camps can't hold certain youngsters, so they're going to send them to prison.
Send them to prison.
Right, so from the street to prisons.
Just from the streets to
prison. Those camps, they're just camouflage. They're just something that they put in place. They say what they're going to do, but they're not going to do it. They send them to prison.
And COVID is another war on urban people, urban black and brown people. COVID is designed to steal black folks, and that could just be my theory, but I'm big, like I said, I think a lot. So I'm like, okay, now that the world is opening back up, you're not going to see a lot of urban people, because they've already been confined to this COVID-19, and we're still in the pandemic. And then most urban people are not having money. Their income is limited.
Right.
So when you see the world opening back up, you're going to see less colored people, because we're already getting programmed to stay home. And if we don't have the financial wealth to be outside, to be in these restaurants, to be in these festivities, you won't see us. Right. So it's just like a war. COVID is another war on society, whether you black, brown, whatever, it's just it's an attack to genocide, to population control is what I like to call it, because it's taking everybody out. So it don't matter if you're brown, black, or whatever, it's taking you out. So that's population control. And then with the youth not understanding, so my daughter, which is 20, she just texts me, it's because my son is incarcerated, and he's been incarcerated for 9 years. So my daughter just sent me a list of bills that just passed today. I will text them to you and share them with you. And so I started researching them before we came in to the studio, so to see what they are. And they pass bills, but then you got people on social media, you got black people like, yeah, they about to free my people, and it's just so amazing how everybody just think people just want to be free. But if you go to the bill got a whole nother language that y'all don't understand. Nobody's about to be free. They just have to do it a different way. And that's why I was like, oh my God, like today, what a day to give me this. And it just was today, because I went to the government website. They were just passed today. And I'm like, wow, what a day. And I'm coming to a show. And so I started reading everything. So everything is official. Juveniles will be closing June 30th of 2023. There will be no more juveniles in the state of California. So we are in a crisis. We're in a danger. So then I said to myself, as I was looking over my notes, I said, where is California schools as helping families with this as a public notice, as a crisis, as an awareness, I guess that's where I'm going to come in at, and work on the movement that I appreciate you for endorsing for me,
Sure.
being that you know more about
I know firsthand.
and you are so critical to the movement and to everything we need to do, being my elder and coming to you first, and just overall just God blessing me with you. For 5 years we've been in a connection, and we're finally about to make some things happen, you know, because some things take time, you know. And so I really appreciate you for endorsing on October the 1st, Felony's Not Your Friend. So I just want to talk about Felony's Not Your Friend for just a second, because I need people to understand what I'm going to do to move forward to try to help California urban Americans as much as I can with your platform, with all the other platforms, reaching back out to the city and county, reaching back out to the mayor's office and the Human Rights Commission director, Dr. Davis, and Shaman, the president of San Francisco District 10, is for juvenile closing, which is not whether we agree that they're closed or not. It's just that we need our young people to get the information so they can be cool out here, because the government gonna do what the government want to do anyway. It's not a Shaman, President Walton's call. He might just feel the fact that, yeah, well, maybe we do need to close them. Maybe we do have another alternative for young people to go. Maybe we need to make them go to school. And if they don't go to school, that's a part of their program. You know, that's, you know, make them do something other than being confined. Right, exactly. So I appreciate, you know, President Shaman movement, but at the same time, it's because it's so in depth with felonies once you get one. Because being that my son is incarcerated and I wanted to go see my son, and when California, Department of California hit me back, it was like, you can't come see him because of this felony. It was like, felony? What felony? Like, I don't have no felony that should stop me from going into a prison. I don't have no violent felony. I don't have nothing that can stop me from going into prison, because I go inside of with Miss Felicia Jones. I didn't been inside 850 and Bruno, working with Miss Felicia, Discovering Your True Self, her program, you know, her Black History program. So it was kind of shocking that I couldn't get in to see my son. So it kind of set me back. It kind of made me feel some type of way, like, damn, like this felony or what felony or whatever they're talking about. And then knowing that they're going to close juvenile, knowing that there are so many people that felonies hang their lives up, whether it's getting a job, whether it's getting housing, whether it's getting the food stamps, whether it's getting GA, you gonna be asked, are you a felon? So that's when I came up with this movement. Actually, in 2021, May of 2021, I came up with this movement called Felony's Not Your Friend. And the goal of it is to work with the city officials, to hold workshops, to always employ in this movement people that can tell the story. See, this movement, you got to know what it's like to be incarcerated. You got to know what it's like to have someone incarcerated. You have to know what it's like to even be walking around with a felony and the doors getting shut in your face. So it's going to take particular urban people that have experienced the criminal justice system that can say felonies is not cool. And let me tell you how it's like all divine timing, because I am a member of All of Us or None with Dorsey Nunn and them. I just rejoined back the movement because that's about the largest movement that's really fighting on the ground about doing us like this. So not only are they now working on involuntary solitude, because that's slavery. Sure. You know, I met, because for the holidays, I like to send out, I get the New Bayview paper and all the pen pals in there. I send them Christmas cards. Okay. Now, I don't be knowing none of these people. I just send them Christmas cards, just trying to uplift them, because, you know, I wouldn't want nobody to forget about me being locked up. Yeah. So I started that movement a couple of years ago, and I learned in, what is that, Alabama or Georgia or Louisiana or somewhere, they make 2 cents an hour. And I said, did you leave off of zero or something, writing the guy back? And he was like, no, 2 cents an hour. And then you know what else he told me? He said, we get $20 when we released. no matter how long we've been here. I said $20.
That's crazy.
$20 on a card. So all of us Sanan have these two young men. One went in at the age of 16. He was sent to prison. He talks about how he went to jail and he didn't have nobody to help him. No support, and he wanted to work. And he started getting mad because one job landed was 10 or 8 or 9 cents, and the job in the kitchen was 12 cents. So he couldn't believe it. He was like, "What?" And then he said you gotta hear his story. He said it took an OG to tell him, "Young man, this is what it is. You know, you don't make no money in here, you know." And so all of us Sanan are even working on a movement called Time Done. And that formed out of a young man who couldn't get his siblings or his family members' children because he has a felony. Now see, I don't know you know about that, because that's what they do in Sacramento. If you have a felony, the family member can't get the children.
Yeah, in San Francisco well. Yeah.
And it's like, come on, like what my felony got to do with me being able to help my family member?
I know a grandfather in San Francisco. His daughter went left him for a minute, and he wanted to get the children, and he went to court, and they wouldn't allow him to get to court
because of his felony.
And he had it years ago.
Years ago.
Yeah, this was in the 60s.
That's why I'm starting this movement with Felonies Is Not Your Friend, because of the barriers. And that's why all of us Sanan is starting the Time Done, because we didn't did the time.
Exactly.
Why y'all still harassing us? Why I couldn't get my family member? What do you mean? Like this not making sense. And to brothers and sisters who've been incarcerated and trying to come home and be the people, the ones that's helping families today. That is the greatest movement that they could have started, because it's called Time Done, and they focusing on involuntary solitude, because that's slavery, and they not removing that language. See, that's why I keep saying their language. As black people, we have to read, because see, they known us to not read, and when you don't read what they talking about, they already got us. They already done washed us all up, and that's the danger that I'm afraid of that's going to come into the next generation, is the language. So I decided on, because I'm going to also and then so Felonies Not Your Friend, and then the milestone. So I can go over like a milestone or two. We're going to try to decrease youth and mass incarceration by 2020. So we're going to start on the ground, start this movement, start talking to our youth, making them letting us in the schools, making sure they letting us get to our youth the best way we can, joining other organizations like Coleman Advocates, where 100% college prep, wherever there's a lot of youth at, that's where we need to start. I'm going to start packing the youth and sending out the information after I haven't endorsed the movement yet. Then I want to see a college ready by 5th grade. I want to see things like, I want to see more reading programs in the Bayview, or where urban children are at around America. You go into the Sunset, I can count to you how many reading labs on the blocks over there, and that should be around every parts of the city, not just, where poor people is at, help everybody. If we gonna talk about, equity and generational wealth, start there. Give them a chance. Is where you start there. You don't know what their generational wealth is going to be till you give them a chance to just simply learn how to read and write, and then you ain't got to worry about the rest of their goals, because they will fulfill them as young people. So Felonies.
Let me say this, sister. We gonna bring you back.
Okay.
We got to end now. We get in the time, but we're going to bring you back.
Okay.
And we're going to do another session.
Sure.
Okay, so we're going to bring you back.
Okay.
And you guys, I want the audience, I want you to stay tuned, because we're going to have a second part of this. The sister's going to come back. She have a second part that we want to speak on. And we got a whole another 30 minutes that we want to talk about. And the sister got some real serious, in-depth stuff that she wants to expose. and bring to the public so you guys can know exactly what's going on with the education in San Francisco, what's going on with the juvenile halls in San Francisco that you don't know about. So we're going to bring the system back and allow you guys to continue with the program on the Wendell Ellerby and James Show. So stay tuned and look at the Wendell Ellerby and James Show every Saturday night, 7 o'clock on Channel 29 and 76. So if you have anything to enhance our program, please call the show and let them know. They'll pass it on to me and we can better our program. So we thank you for watching the show tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.